Welcome back, team, on the journey to transform culture. I'm Steve. I'll be your guide. Well, today let's talk a little bit about how we can fruitfully reinvest the time that we save uh, that comes from technology and other things. So, if you think about it, if you go back in time, and for many of us, if you go back far enough, you don't remember this time, but we know that people had to hand wash their clothes. And they hand washed their clothes and took significant time to do that. People had to do a lot of things manually, whether it was plowing fields and growing their own food and all these things, right? So much of their time and energy was spent on strictly survival and just being able to survive for the day, the week, the month, and so on. So much so that they had to prepare for winters as well, right? Storing things away, food, grain, all the rest of it, seeds, all these things for the next seasons. So much of of the process of living was to continue the process of living, right? It was to provide for the process of living. As culture then evolves, and and I'm using really domesticated things, but you think about the washer and dryer. Now that that's come online, I remember my grandmother, one of my grandmothers, um, drying. They also had a farm, so they grew up during the time when they probably were hand washing when she was a kid or younger. But but she would dry her sheets and all these things out on a clothesline, right? And it's still people still do that. It still makes practical sense to do that in some instances. And but you think about the washer and dryer, you think about the microwave, and you think about all these small domesticated tools and things that we come up with that have helped to make our lives a little bit more convenient. But I'm not here to harp on the convenience of technology and domestic tools and all these things because obviously that evolves into robotics and AI and all these other things. And that's great. But what I'm here to discuss is what are you doing with the time that you don't realize is now being saved? Because a lot of us were born into the new realms of this time savings, even to such extent where my children are in their 30s. And so they're accustomed to like social media, and there's so much information online where when we were young, it was you either learned it in school. You may have known somebody with a thesaurus, or not a thesaurus, but an encyclopedia or something like that. But for the most part, you didn't have just ready access of information. You learned a lot. We did learn a lot watching TV, the news, and obviously there was educational things, but it was pretty rudimentary education, and but not awful, but still not what it is today, right? So young people, and I say young people, I'm using that term loosely. I mean, I think my generation's still young in the world these days, especially when you consider with all the conveniences and all the advancements we've made, how much more you can do. As you get older, these conveniences are actually playing into your ability to be productive and to accomplish and do more. So it's not just helping out youth, even to the extent they may not even understand that it is, but it's helping out. And this is an amazing thing for people of older generations who now have this technology where we can look back to my youth, and my son was like, "Oh, I think the '70s would have been cool." Now, don't get me wrong, there were some neat little things out of the '70s, music and this and that, but as a kid, the '70s were pretty boring to me. That's just my take. you know, um, you know, it was fairly, I won't say uneventful, but it wasn't domestically. It wasn't an exciting time. I didn't think. Um, but all that said, now you fast forward and you think of all the amazing tools we do have at hand, and my generation goes, "Oh, we didn't have this stuff when we were young," and you almost feel young again because you have all this new capability and possibility at your fingertips. Where the younger generation, probably the new like teens through young adults and so forth, they're so accustomed to the technology that's available and access to information that it's mostly taken for granted. Okay, thank you, Captain Obvious. Why are we talking about this? Well, when I've gone around and I've done improvement projects, whether it be for long term in an organization or for um, short term events, one of the things that you have to kind of realize is that let's use a 10-hour workday. I'm using 10 because there's some that work 8 and there's some that work 12. So I'm just shooting for 10 just for now, just to keep it easy to digest. Easy math. How's that? And let's say that I said to you, I challenge you to find a way to do all the same work that you do in 10 hours in 9. And you were like, okay, cool. I'm going to, figure out how to do that. And if I set you off to do that, you could do that. You could do that. It might take you a couple days or a week, or, you may have to manage it, but you could figure out a way. I almost guarantee you could. So, but the follow up to that is, what do you do with the hour that you now saved? Right? What are you doing with that hour? Because a lot of times we're only, so much of the work that gets done in organizations and in life in general is dealing with changing circumstance, right? Situations that kind of change, at our fingertips uh, during our day that we're reacting to. So you might find that 3 hours or 4 hours out of that 10-hour day is you dealing with problems that arise during the day, right? These weren't problems necessarily that existed the day before or a week before. Now, not in every case, but I'm generalizing a little bit. But there's at least a couple hours in there of just purely reactionary work that you do or attention to solving problems. And in some cases, what happens is we forget that our work is to do the work, right? To produce an outcome. And what happens is that when, let's say that you saved 2 hours out of that 10-hour day, well, now you're getting bored. And when people get bored, what do you think creeps in? Distraction, all kinds of distraction. But if you've saved your hour or two in a day and nobody else has, and now you're, kind of interrupting them, even if it's for a few minutes, they were already struggling to figure out how they were going to save the first half hour of that hour that they were working on. And so you can't interrupt that. We can be interrupters and not understand. You can be a very efficient person and get in the way of other people trying to work toward becoming more efficient and more effective. So we have to be aware of that. We have to have self-awareness about that sort of thing. I describe it as being, if you're going to say, hey, my team beat your team, coming in after a weekend or after the Super Bowl or something like that in America. And it's moments, not minutes, right? You spend minutes doing that kind of stuff, you're losing, that's customer time, right? Moments, that's fine. Minutes, those minutes add up. And so you just have to have self-awareness and police yourself. But I'm not really going into that. Want to get off on that, tangent either. What I want to focus in on is, what do you do with that other hour or two that you've saved during the day? Well, let me tell you what you should be doing. You should be investing that into finding ways that you can save the next hour. So let's say you figured out a way, just in generally, to make your job easier on your own, to save an hour. And you're like, oh, that's great. Well, now, if you're working 5-6 hours or 6 days a week, 5 or 6 days a week, you got 5 or 6 hours more to work on how to make your job more efficient and and innovate new ways and more smart ways to do your work, right? Well, at a certain point, you're going to get to, like, let's say you get to that 2 hour mark and you're going to be like, well, I'm pretty efficient, almost to the point where you're bored. What do you do now? Well, whether you be a part of the team at any level or you're a leader or a manager, what you should do is let those folks who are making great headways to make their jobs more efficient find new opportunities to help other people discover and improve upon their processes. Now, if you're asking yourself, well, why would you do that? Well, because if I save all this time and I can replicate this process throughout an organization, even if it's a small team, could be a dental office, could be any small group, could be a large group, but let's say a small team of less than 50, we'll say more than 3 or 4 or 5, but less than 50. You do that. Now, what do? Now you can put on an event to find and put the whole team on ways to improve bigger problems or bigger, issues that the organization has. You invest that time into those efforts. And when you do that, now how does that benefit? Well, it may benefit because you increase your capacity to do more for more customers. So you can grow your customer base, right? So you might be able to take on more product. It might be, or different types of products. It might be that you offer your current customer base more services, right? Maybe you put somebody who's, clipped out a couple hours a day, maybe 30 or 40 minutes of that time, they do some follow-up with customers, do some surveys, do some things, hey, just reaching out. And then what you also might find is problems that you haven't resolved yet, you need that, people who have done well to be more efficient and effective, you can put them on those teams to do an event to solve other customer problems, or it could be organizational. It could be in-house projects. It could be, hey, we're going to redo our break room, or we want to, we want to make the environment better, or we want to, whatever. It could be a morale-based thing. Hey, we're going to put on a cookout. We need some people to help out. Hey, I'm a person that's more efficient and effective. Hey, yeah, I'll dive into that, right? So you can spread yourself out, and it can be kind of fun because you get to help a lot of different people and do a lot of different things. And then you kind of just feel good being able to help customers and helping out your team too. And because there are a lot of folks who get, sorry about that, that was a pup, the pup. But there are a lot of folks who are get inundated because of they're saturated their work and the complexity and the kind of the they're in a nest, they're in a bird's nest, and they're trying to fight their way out of it, and they may need help. And those would be the first stops that you would want to go to. But whether you be an organizational leader or whether you're a team member, being able to save time and energy is a fantastic thing. And those returns should go to your primary customers and then your team. And then when you do that, you're going to find that your service, your quality, all these things can improve, but they can't improve if you don't first put that as an objective in front of you. If it's just business as usual and you show up to work and, hey, I just come to work, do work, and get paid and go home, if it's so linear, no, it's about growing. And it might be that you grow your skill set. Hey, I want to learn this other job because this is kind of cool, and this way I'm more flexible, or whatever the case may be. You might get a little bit more hours or more time or more responsibility, or pick up on more opportunities within the normal flow of the organization because you have a skill set that others don't have. Maybe you get certifications and all these different things, right? And as leaders of organizations, it's a good thing that if you reward folks by providing them opportunities when they've made their work and your organization more effective and more efficient. If you're not doing that, you're probably failing at that anyway, or it's just not happening at all because you're not really considering that it needs to be a reciprocal. They just saved a whole lot of time, energy, and effort, and are making your customers more happy, whether you see it, whether you think about it that way or not. You have to be approaching it from that perspective. So just wanted to touch base on you, touch base with you to talk a little bit about how you can be more effective about what to do with your time and why it's important that you make your work and and this could apply to your everyday life, making things more efficient, more effective. Hey, if you don't have to hand wash your clothes, if you don't have to manually do a bunch of things that people 2 generations back used to, maybe you can work on, increasing your own education about yourself and follow your own passions. You might have an artistic or creative endeavor you want to dive into. You might have something, you want to learn something, you want to take a class, you want to do different things. Reinvest that time that you don't even realize that you have, that you've had probably all your life, thanks to 2 generations back. Because if it wasn't for those 2 generations back, we wouldn't be having this conversation, and this little devicey nice thing wouldn't be here either. It's just flat fact. So we're always the benefactor of previous generations, and we have to honor that, respect it, and also pay that forward to the new generations coming up. And when we do that, that's how we protect love. I want to thank you for stopping by today. Remember, hit that domino three to 5 times a day to uplift, inspire, motivate, and just help folks out. And when you do that, not only you transform other people's lives and culture, but you're also transforming yourself, and that's a good thing. So hit like, subscribe, share this with folks. Hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.